Warning: this is not your normal podcast. Its purpose is to provide thought-provoking dialogue with a slanted perspective. Here we encourage influential conversations. Give us a listen, like and share. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome to CEO and the Doctor.
Yes, sir. See you on the Doctor, season 4, episode 2. How everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody good.
Hey,
What's going on, P? How you feeling?
I'm good, brother. How you doing? It is good to get started on another episode. This is season 4, episode 2. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, man. So it's been a minute since we talked, and these schedules are crazy, bro. It's trying to get these schedules together.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm trying to be more consistent. And I got the second podcast, so we're on a little break over there for a couple of
right, right.
So yeah, man, I'm focused, ready to. I like to say our podcast. I'm starting to hear this like ruffle feathers a little bit. So we might ruffle a feather or two tonight.
And that's all right. There's a lot to talk about this season.
Oh yeah,
And I'm glad we've shifted. We got a lot of the normal stuff, the flash, news. But there's some really interesting topics that are thought provoking and we really need to address, like we did last week and this week. With our appeasement discussion, America's appeasement of the Black community. We've seen different gestures, and the question remains: what do they really mean? So we'll talk about that as the show progresses on. So, without further ado, I am ready to start when you are, sir.
all right, man. Here we go. All right, we're gonna jump into it with the flash. We're gonna start with the state of the school system. So we more so gonna hit on some things in Arizona, but just talk about it collectively across the country. So go ahead, jump in that with that.
I saw several posts, on social media about just first of all, the Chicago public school system. The teachers have their own web page and Instagram and stuff like that, and they're posting stuff regularly. So the problem in Chicago is the mayor wants them back in the classroom without providing, and this is according to the teachers, of course, without providing masks, without providing safety measures, and without providing testing on site.
Okay.
Just go back into the classroom without any of these safety measures in place. Meanwhile, the federal government has provided money to every state to provide safety measures, masks, and the possibility of testing. But the argument is, well, not the argument. Information shows that the mayor of Chicago added more funding to the police department and pulled funding away from the schools. So, which we've seen.
Yeah, I was going to ask that was why, because she wanted to place money somewhere else,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So schools, for some reason, is the first place that gets cut. So, when I saw that and I saw other things about, why would anybody want to teach in the United States? And Chicago's just the example of what's happening. Here in Arizona, a lot of the same things are happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're not locked out like in Illinois. The mayor in Illinois, Lori Lightfoot, she completely locked the teachers out. They can't teach online. They can't even go back into the brick and mortar school until they agree to go as she wants them to. Now, their argument is they want to reduce the possibility of them and the students catching COVID. Meanwhile, Lori Lightfoot catches COVID. She says, "I'm working from home."
Oh, double standard.
Double standard like a motherfucker. So, you have stuff like that going on. And here, I know several teachers where, one of them told me, for instance, that, over the last week, they've been missing, staff out like 7 to 8, 9 people per day, 4 or 5 students per class per day. When staff is missing, you've got one teacher covering 2 classes of 30 plus kids. Not to mention these physical classrooms, they still have other kids that they're teaching virtually as well.
No pay increase, no
right.
no incentives, no anything.
Nothing. Just show up and work. And when you think about it, and this is something that I really want anybody that's listening, everybody's listening, especially if you have kids, even if you don't have kids, just consider this. With everything that's going on in our world, how much teaching can possibly happen when you've got COVID to worry about, safety measures, gun violence, social media, all the things that happen in the course of a teacher's day that they have to address. How much teaching actually happens?
Facts. And I mean, we can all go back and say last year was a wash. The last 18 months almost, because I mean, kids were, there was all kind of reports about kids not even showing up. Hell, I say my kid found out how to play the system. So, you log into class, you there, but you're not there type situation.
I mean, they all do. When the system is designed this way, and it's not the fault of teachers. That's the argument. That's the thing that I want to emphasize. It's not the fault of teachers. They've got limited resources. A lot of teachers buy their own school supplies for their kids, their classroom supplies for their kids out of pocket. Not that they make a lot of money anyway. I know some teachers with master's degrees that make just barely over 30 G's.
And I know plenty of those.
These are the people on the front lines of educating America's youth. And I'm not even going to say it seems like it. I am going to say that America does not care. America doesn't care. I want a question for parents. How can you send your kids to a place that you have absolutely no respect for the people that are caring for your child?
I think that's that inner look where you have to kind of, we've been so disconnected to the system, right? We talk about this all the time. How much time is spent outside of the home, parents at work, kids at school, extracurriculars, that we heard a lot during COVID. Like, parents were frustrated because they had to like fill in as that role as part-time teacher. And I think a lot of people had to take a real hard look at themselves and be like, I am not connected as much as to my child as maybe I thought I am or thought I was. And, parents were like, look, when are y'all opening the doors back? They need to get the hell out the house. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because it just shows you how far, we've come. And I say come, not in a positive way, but how disconnected we are with this generation. Like my mom, my grandparents, everybody seemed to be connected to me being in school.
There's a regression.
Yes, complete. We allow everybody else to take care of everything for us. And we expect everybody, quote unquote, to do their job. So in this case, teachers do your job, which is get my kid out of my house for 8 to 9 hours a day. And I was like, that's not their responsibility. You know what I mean?
And
it's wild.
They become social workers. They become guidance counselors. They become, de facto psychologists for these kids, and that's not their responsibility. That's the shame of it. America's parents, and this might be a broad swath. Okay. If you are a good parent and you're investing in your kids' education, kudos to you. Thank you for doing it and keep doing it. But for those that don't, that essentially hit the brakes at the door, kicks a little shorty out the door and takes off, shame on you. Shame on you. And don't wonder why your kid winds up working at Walmart or even worse, in jail, because you fed into it.
It's a tough reality, man, but it's very true. And fortunately for me, being military, my mom has played a huge part in all of my children, helping with school and stuff like that. So like they say, it takes an entire village. So we've been blessed in that, right? But that's how I came up too. Like my grandparents assisted my parents as well. So it's just, and everybody doesn't have the same luxuries, as far as like family there to support them. There's a lot of single parents, mothers and some fathers out there that are trying to do as much as they can. So this is no knock or no shot at those individuals, but we did recognize during COVID, I think, just how much the lack of parenting was taking place, and how it was literally like, we make sure that our kids are fed, they have clothing, and they go to school. But now it's, wait, I have to be the part-time teacher, meaning
I actually have to make sure he knows or she knows what all
this
that
ain't my
stuff
job.
means.
It is your job. You're the parent.
That is your job. That's your job as a parent. I don't. When did that just fall off? When did that just become an optional thing?
Right.
That was never something, like you said, that was never something that was optional in our upbringing. It may not have been perfect, all right, and I'm not saying that it needs to be.
Right. It definitely is something we have to, we've been beating this, dead horse thing, but there's certain, career choices that we realize individuals make because they have a passion for something.
Yeah.
All teachers are not created equal, but every teacher understands that you don't become a teacher to be the next millionaire, right?
Yeah.
So I think with that, we have to respect who they are as people. We have to respect the time they put in, the lack of resources, and everything they're up against. And with that, I think that the country as a whole, we always talk about, creating jobs and what it looks like to have a robust economy. Well, education is the base of that. So if you're not putting any money into education, i.e. paying the educators what they should be getting paid,
right,
and really evaluating what it is per capita in each city, each state, what they should be making as a comparable wage to the cost of living, then we're not doing something right, and we can see
you're right.
the system is flawed, because it's shameful that you take some situations like boosters come back and, especially at these private Catholic schools, and they pump all this money into the sports program, right? And they care about, what that looks like and the pride and all that comes with being a winning program. But nobody talks about the educators. Like nobody talks about like raising their, their pay wage, so that they value their job even more, and
feel appreciated.
And you're getting quality because they understand, like, this is actually a solid paying job now, So
you know me, I live on the premise that you get what you pay for.
Facts.
Seriously. And as long as this country continues to undermine education the way that it does, nothing, we have no future. We have no future as a country. We have absolutely none. And this is something that's passionate to me, because I am an avid learner. I love learning. Madeline, thank you for what you do. You and all the other teachers that go into those classrooms each and every day and deal with the bureaucracy that you deal with the budget shortfalls, deal with the parents that don't invest in their children's time, deal with the parents that expect you to raise their children. Thank you for what you do. And we recognize here at See on the Doctor the effort that you put in each and every single day, and we appreciate it. We can have a whole show on just that in itself. But let's move on. We got a lot more stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Janet Yellen's statement. And she's been in the forefront for many years talking about these type of things. But this one stuck out to you in the honor of Dr. King Week. We're kind of, hitting on those type of things tonight. So go ahead, Pete. Tell me about that.
Since post-slavery, Americans, Black Americans have always found ourselves behind. We still haven't made economic strides. We haven't. We make a percentage of what our white counterparts make, even if we're educated at the same level, experienced at the same level or greater. The adage that we have to work twice as hard to get half as far still applies. And I think that it always applies, but it's nice to hear that someone in the power structure actually says something about it. And this is exactly what she said. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said that the country's economy has never worked fairly for Black Americans. And there's much more work needed to be done to narrow the racial wealth gap. From Reconstruction to Jim Crow to present day, our economy has never worked fairly for Black Americans or really any American of color. So the acknowledgement means something. Now, let's see where the effort goes. Let's see what kind of effort is put into making, providing opportunities to make strides for people of color. It's important to see where we are as a country, especially when you think of, we're still trying to fight for access to free or affordable health care at this point, better schools, investment in our schools. But we see investments in our infrastructure, but we see more and more money, and we're both military. We both, I think between us, we're damn near 50 years in this in military time, a culmination of that time. I know from my perspective, I've seen a lot of waste. I see so much. What are we defending to the tune of $730 billion?
It's a tough one to explain. I mean, and we constantly pump money into latest tech, right?
Yeah.
Keeping up with ourselves because no one else is keeping up with us. So the best aircraft, the best warships, trying to make sure our soldiers are equipped for the next 2030 and beyond. But all these things, don't get me wrong, like one thing never leads to another. We can kind of have the same conversation when it comes to we're just talking about the teachers, because we know good and well, and we're going to stay with what she's talking about. But we know good and well, military as a whole does not get paid on a marketable enough approach for it to be what that spending budget is. So what I mean by that is we volunteer force, right? We raise our hand, and a lot of people will fall back on that. Well, you know what you volunteer for. I get it, but I also understand what's fair and what's relatable. So if we are the 1%, when you think about it, who's actually serving, like you trying to tell me that 1% can't actually get a little bump in pay. It's not like, that represents a huge number in this country. It's a tiny little figure, so all in all, with all that said, going back to what she's talking about, these funds, not just the defense budget, but all these other things, everybody gets something. Everybody gets to go to the well, and it's like there's a constant, I won't say effort, but there's one constant. Someone's not getting, those kickbacks and things like that, those earmarks. And unfortunately, not to get too political, but we understand how politicians run. We kind of talked about this with Joe Biden and his situation. And even though representation looks great, i.e. Kamala Harris, we've had, President Obama and other senators and mayors and everybody in Congress and Senate and all that. But what does that really look like when it plays to the common?
When it matters.
Yeah, like
when it matters.
And those things are missed or overlooked. And they're not missed or overlooked like, pushed under the rug. Sometimes it's blatant. Like, we're going to do this, and we're going to talk about this later, the appeasement. We're going to do this for the Black community. If I run as president, you can expect this, whatever this is. And then, you're always kind of left waiting, like Lelway. Like,
it starts here, and over time,
it just narrows.
It winds up. We're gonna put Maya on the quarter.
Yeah,
shut up in color.
Something else takes precedent.
It's always historically, it's always been that way. And for me, from the military perspective, I wasn't even really, when I mentioned it, I wasn't even really addressing the issue of the pay gap for what we do, what we did in the military. We know we're underpaid, but all the other money for weapons, bombs, bullets, planes, tanks, all these things, you have to justify the use.
And then just to just to add a little bit of extra sprinkle, some people might call it a gaffe, a blunder, whatever, but she said that the system has never been created equal for Black Americans.
No.
We have someone like Mitch McConnell this week that says something like, well, Black Americans, when it comes to their vote, they're voting the same clips as Americans. What?
Yeah.
like I don't know if Mitch is just suffering from early onsets of memory loss or whatever,
Nah,
but I thought we
Mitch,
all were Americans. So
Mitch is
when
an old white guy.
you say
Mitch is an old white guy.
one subconscious statement that he could easily say, "Oh, that was a mistake," or I was talking too fast. But
Nah,
the words are words, man, and you literally compared Black Americans to Americans.
Mitch is an old white guy. I'll let that speak for itself.
Wow.
A really, really old Southern white guy.
Money
Okay.
Mitch. Messing up.
And I'll leave that one at that. So,
All right, let's move on to
now over
Kyle's
the past, I want to say last year, the year pretty much closed out with Cal Rittenhouse beating the murder charges that was on him for his out and out assassination of two BLM supporters doing a riot in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He got it. Look, traveled across state lines with his AR-15. I thought his mom bought it for him. You thought his mom bought it for him. Come to find out that another adult, Dominic Black, bought the gun for it and gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And while Kyle got off, Dominic Black had to plea his way out or to lesser charges. So he pled his way out of whatever the felony charges were. And those felony charges could be eventually dropped. But he got a $2,000 fine and has to pay whatever citations that come with his charges.
Which just goes back to how strange that law is, and how crazy it is, because you're saying that someone who is 17 years old has the right to possess but not purchase.
Right.
In this case, individual possessed and used and killed individuals, and you see them get off of those charges, and gun charges as a whole were dropped in the case. But then the person that buys the gun and then gave it to said member is now looked at as, and you could just call it what it is, in all, more wrong than the individual actually fired weapon.
Yep.
It's wild, man. It's a wild concept sometimes.
Murderer
situation.
You're not a criminal.
Yeah.
Purchaser. Oh my God, you're a criminal.
I don't know, man. Sometimes, like I said, I'm not into law, but as I read things and I come to you for clarification, or my sister, or I dig a little bit myself, I'm like, how does this stuff make sense? Like, it seems it contradicts itself so much. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't understand. You can be young enough. Okay, you can be young enough to not be able to buy it, but you're not young enough to be able to use it.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, let's like, we can dumb it down to the most simplest of terms, right? Hey, you can be 13 years old, have enough money to buy a car, but you cannot drive it.
Facts. Or you can smoke cigarettes. There's nothing against it, but we're gonna let you buy cigarettes if you're under 18.
Yeah.
So you can't get in trouble if you smoke.
It's everything. It's insane that it seems as though everything is reactionary. It's not, precautionary. It's not that we prepare for the possibilities, things. We react to the actions after the fact. So whether this will change with all the bullshit that's happening in this country, I don't think anybody's going to look at that law and say, well, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. He can possess it, but he can't buy it. He possessed it underage. That's the thing. I know this is revisionist history at this point. That's the thing that has me stumped.
Facts.
He killed two people underage in possession of a weapon that he should not have had.
Facts.
Carried it across state lines. Facts. But that's just me. Anyway.
All right, so let's go to news first and get something lighter. We'll come back to Black excellence, then we'll jump into the main. So let me find where's the news because we got all kind of stuff in news tonight.
Yeah.
Didn't I cue that?
Which one we doing first?
The power of urine.
Okay, so we've gone through a whole lot of anti-vax people. I don't know what's in the shot. I don't know what this, and they've got chips in it, and it is magnetic stuff in there. Just when you thought that was bordering on insane, There's an anti-vax leader that's urging his followers to drink their own urine to fight COVID. Yeah.
More on that.
If you are willing to drink your own piss,
so the video is hilarious because he's
Yeah.
breaking it down and talking about, I don't even know if there's science that he had to support it, but he was just saying, like, calling it like God's gift. And he was like, well, first off, it's disgusting to drink somebody else's pee, so make sure it's yours. It's disgusting to drink your own pee. We've seen boxers do this before and talk about, you know, I don't know, recharging the system by, you know, getting whatever benefits from the waste. I don't know, but I have no idea how he compared this to COVID, right? Like how he said, man, look, I don't even understand anything about this. I think that's the clearest way to put that. I have no idea where he's trying to go, why he even came up with this theory, and what it is that would be in your urine that would be able to protect you. Like, I don't know.
It's waste. It's waste. So, and for me, this is more like I look at news like, what the fuck? Okay, really, that's what news is. I'm not even going to try to analyze this bullshit. I'm not. Look,
going forward, news, we're gonna start clipping this shit.
If you are anti-vax and don't want to take a shot, that's on you. That's on you. I'm not urging you to drink your piss though. Yeah, that's fucking nasty. Okay, you're drinking your own pee. That's nasty. I don't even want to know you. Okay, that's the long and short of this portion of news.
Going forward, P, you have to remind me when it's something like we have to clip it because I have the ability to clip it and play it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can't do it justice. But that was wild. Yeah. Wild story.
Now,
okay. Start about
I will do what I can. I will do what I can to put the clip in the post when I do the post for the show. Okay. I will try my best to add those. Okay. Pokemon. So hold on. Let me give you the backdrop to this. I didn't even know this was a thing. Okay. Until I was talking to my daughter and she was telling me that her and the kids were out walking around and they were hunting for Pokemon. I was like, huh?
But that was like years ago.
Apparently, there's an app on your phone now.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You can download. And
yeah. That was big like 2 years ago, like pre-COVID. People was
apparently that shit's still big. I did not know this. So, okay. Let's fast forward to LA. Robbery in progress. Hold on, that shit gotta wait, dude. I'm trying to find this fucking rare ass Pokemon. That's just a Snorlax. Yes, I'm looking at it right now. These motherfuckers let a robbery happen so they can hunt for a Snorlax.
Did they find said Snorlax?
They found the Snorlax and lost their jobs.
That's where we were going. First off, that's 2 claps for Ric Flair. The first clap is for you found your fucking Snorlax. The second clap, I'm glad that the LA Police Department was like, this is ridiculous. We have to fire these type of shitty cops. So that you imagine like when Craig on Friday was like, you lost your job on your day off, but you gotta lie about saying how you lost your job. There's no way you can say this with a straight face. Like at your next job interview. No. So tell me why you got laid off. You gotta lie.
Yes, you have to. You have to.
There's no way you.
This is worth me reading.
All right, give it.
Ignoring a radio call for backup for approximately the next 20 minutes. Dashcam video captured the petitioners discussing Pokemon as they drove to different locations where the virtual creatures apparently appeared on their mobile phones.
Ignore back in a city like LA when you know something like a robbery is you like we just seen that crazy video of the motorcyclist who was on a high-speed chase and then end up being a fatal crash because he was whipping through traffic. So situations like this is not something to take lightly in a metropolitan city like LA. But you're playing a children's game on the clock.
No, it gets even stupider. Okay, so those nearby officers didn't respond to the call. So Captain Davenport, he's in charge of the shift right now during this. He responded himself and saw the other police car reverse down the alley and leave the area.
This is the one chasing the Pokemon.
Yes, he watched the motherfuckers leave. They backed up down the area, out of the area.
Can't make that up.
Can't make it up.
Can't make that up. Wow, that's terrible.
Wow. And they said they didn't hear the radio. Okay, so look, in all seriousness, man, and this is going to touch on your final note. Okay, we're always left to wonder as a community, as a society. We're always left to wonder: are there good cops? Because there's, I swear to God, they always say that there's some good cops out there.
Yeah.
This makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder.
And yeah, again, we're not going to say every cop's like this and they get a bad rap for other things, and we're not even going to go there tonight. But this right here is just an example of some of the stuff that you can't make up, and it's not always like, oh, cop beat this guy senseless or did this, because we know that's shitty in its own right. But situations like this is just as shitty. Like, you're getting paid to actually do things like this, to prevent crime and to stop things, and you're doing mindless things like chasing Pokemon. Like, so you used to get the bad rap for donuts and whatever. Donuts is actually better than Pokemon chasing. Yeah. Let's talk about Drake, man. And I forgot, I could have queued up the other day, but go ahead, tell me.
All right, so you know how I think everybody's got social media, seen one story after another. How
this is a rumor, by the way. Let's say
this is a rumor. This is a rumor. So I'm gonna set up the rumor real quick. Okay. You have these women, these opportunists. That's what I call them. They're opportunists. They sleep with somebody with some money. Guy has a condom on. He takes a condom on. He throws it away in the trash can in the bathroom. She goes into the bathroom after him, scoop this stuff out of the condom and puts it in her. She impregnates herself with his semen. Payday.
Yes.
So the rumor is Drake hooked up with this Instagram model. They smoked a little weed, got a little high. He asked if she wanted to have sex. He asked for consent. I'll give him that. She said yes. They did the deed. He went to the bathroom to take the condom off. He threw the condom into the bathroom. She went in after him to do her "I want to get paid" check. And she said that once she put the semen in her, it burned like an inferno.
Oh, man. So
she came out. He said he put hot sauce in the condom.
Here's my thing. And this is just, like, sometimes we want to believe things like this, or we wait for confirmation, or we just run with it. But I had to look at some common sense. Like, I mean, did she not look at said condom? Did it not look red? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Maybe this is to be believed. Maybe it's not. But this is a different approach to Plan B.
Let's look at it as a cautionary tale.
Because she was saying the rumor is this happened and she wanted to sue him. Right?
She wanted to sue him. Yeah, she wanted to sue him.
See, and we live in a country where there is a page somewhere buried in the judicial system where she has a case. Yeah. Though she was trying to, you can't say nothing but, I want to say illegal, but what else you would call it? Like, basically trying to impregnate herself without his consent in this right.
Isn't his any man's semen is his, and if it's not in her, if it's not in the woman that you with, the semen is your semen. Correct me, right? If possession is 9/10 of the law. No. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Oh my God.
Possession 9/10 of the law. If that shit ain't in her, it ain't hers. Anyway.
Okay. Black you move to Black excellence.
Let's go to Black excellence, man. 13-year-old young man, obviously a huge brain, obviously started an aerospace engineering program at Georgia Tech.
Incredible.
We wanted to make a focus on Black excellence because we don't get enough of these stories. It's easy for us to find. Let me find his name. We don't get enough of these stories because America's just all about sensationalism, and it's usually 99% of the time, it's some bad shit that gets the headline and the major discussion. So we wanted to make a concerted effort to do our part to highlight what our people are doing. I'm trying to find his name now. Aerospace engineer. Yep, 13-year-old starts first day. Caleb Anderson.
Okay.
He realized his dream to be a student at Georgia Tech at just 13 years old. Kid from Atlanta, Georgia. Kudos to this young man.
Facts. And we've seen like stories like this going forward. I'm sorry, not going forward. We've seen stories like this in the past, where so kids come out and they're the first African American valedictorian of their school. They come out with, oh man, some ungodly amount of scholarship money. I remember like last year
all the time. Yeah.
Somebody had like one black girl had almost nearly $1 million in scholarship money. It was insane. And all those things are things that we've always kind of touched on. But like you said, we want to start applying that to this segment. And it's not always going to be someone famous. Like our first one this year was Mike Tomlin talking about his, his record and making the playoffs, winning seasons. But this time, we go take a young boy. So just think about it. 13 years old. Yeah. And you're starting at Georgia Tech. Like, I mean, when did he start high school? 9? Like, incredible. So, wow, all you can do is clap him up.
For sure.
All you can do is clap him up. So, yeah, any stories like that you guys hear or whatever, like, feel free to send those to us.
Even if it's something personal. If it's something personal, you're proud of your significant other, you're proud of your child, anything that they're doing that you feel should be highlighted, something that should be applauded, send it our way.
Absolutely, man. All right, man. So now here we go. Let's jump into conversations tonight.
Yes.
Thought-provoking. And this week, we celebrated Dr. King's birthday on Monday, and celebration of his holiday and the reflection of his dream, his vision for this country, nearly 50 years ago or more, and what he, would, in my opinion, wish for, hope for, looking at his life and what he wanted to project, and what he wanted, the Black community to be able to, take part in, have equal rights, and just be seen as an individual, not seen as a person or as a color.
Right.
So when we started thinking about things, like the first thing that came up, I remember I sent it to you, and initially I think I took the view of, man, this is pretty cool that we're going to put Maya Angelou on some limited edition quarters over the next few years.
That was my first response too. It was.
And then it, more stories came out about it, and we read more about it, and we were like, well, wait a minute, is this equivalent to, like we talked about, on the first show? Is this like Juneteenth? Is this like another way to say, hey, we are doing something to represent or recognize the Black community, but in doing that comes at a limited fashion. It comes in a limited fashion. It comes in a very bland package. Like I'm not knocking any holiday. It's important to have, Dr. King's holiday. It's important that, Juneteenth is understood and recognized for what it truly is, because for years Black Americans celebrated that without it being a federal holiday. So no takeaway from that. But is that really addressing, going back to what we started with, Miss Janet, the wealth gap? Is it going back to, potentially talk about reparations and how we try to equal out the minority wealth gap in this situation? Or, we are trying to not, when we talk about critical race, control, delete the past, but bring the past very much to the light so people understand the truth, and then maybe have some resolve within themselves to want to do something about it. But we've seen how that's starting to get shot down with what happened in Florida. pass some, or they voted, to pass some crazy law that, basically white
Can't
America.
make white people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. But
everybody has feelings. I don't know how you can write a law about feelings.
Right. What? Because I pissed off a white person, I'm going to jail now? Is that
I don't even know how that works.
I don't. But that's indicative of the times that we live in. And as we talked, offline about the quarter, and we talked more about Juneteenth. When you juxtapose those things versus what you see happening with, denial of CRT and curriculum being removed from schools and books being removed, history being denied, how can you say that Juneteenth and this latest gesture, among many, are nothing more than appeasements? You tell me that Juneteenth matters enough to give me a holiday, but it doesn't matter enough to teach in a classroom. You tell me that we're going to make this this quarter and honor Maya Angelou, one of our, if not the greatest poet laureate in Black American history.
Facts. I don't think there's no question about
none.
that.
We're going to honor her by putting her on the quarter, but we're going to remove her books from the schools.
Yeah. Or put her on the quarter with,
and
the quarter is
with the slave owner in the front.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not even like,
it's not even her quarter.
Yeah, it's definitely not hers,
And is it a limited run? Is it permanent? And
remember the Harriet Tubman situation.
It still hasn't. She's right.
Being $20 bill and all that. So but continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So and this is not just, in my opinion, this isn't just a white power structure issue. It's an issue that we have because we've allowed these appeasements to happen and they be okay. No one has said, yo, thanks for Juneteenth, but you motherfuckers still need to pay us reparations. Thanks for the quarter, but we still got a lot of Black people living in poverty. You still haven't reduced the wealth gap. You may not ever make it even, but you've done nothing to bridge the gap. We're guilty of that. And we've always, from season 1 to now, we've always taken ownership in our shit. Have we not?
Yeah, that's true.
This show has never been about pointing blame and deflecting it elsewhere. We as a community have been equally as wrong because we've accepted these appeasements and run with them. The first thing we say, yeah, we get to celebrate Juneteenth. We off work. You probably need to go to work because you got bills to pay, because the wealth gap isn't bridged enough. You probably need to go to work because you have rent to pay in an apartment instead of a mortgage.
Yeah.
We're not looking at the larger picture. And you know what I think? I think the white power structure knows that.
And what is, I guess what's hard to, because again, I can't really speak other than reading history,
Mm-hmm.
but I can only imagine that during the civil rights movement, the idea behind what fair looked like was not even close to being defined. So
right.
Where I'm going here, you got to kind of stay with me. I don't want to get lost. So if you kind of like blink and you don't do anything that requires you to read where we come from, in a lot of ways, everything that Martin Luther, if you only heard about it, in a lot of the ways, everything that Martin Luther King was fighting for and the civil rights movement was, we have arrived, i.e., right? Mm-hmm. We don't have separatist situations no more. You drink here, you sit here, you stand there, you can ride wherever you want on the bus. You don't have, well, white kids don't go to this school and black kids go to this school. All that's gone. Mm-hmm. So if you just look at the umbrella of the idea of what equal rights look like, in a lot of ways, his dream is probably very much come true from a 1960s perspective in whole. Mm-hmm. But growing up, understanding my life through my parents' eyes was not as clear, I think, as today my kids seeing their lives through mine. Why? My parents still very much were dealing with the hardcoreness of that wealth gap. Everything that happened in the 70s, the struggles, the
Yeah.
80s, and we grew up, in poverty, so to
Yeah.
speak. Well,
Yeah.
my kids don't see that. So in a
Mhm.
lot of ways, if they have not truly witnessed something on a one-on-one basis or a very personal basis, they might not even think that there is a race problem in this country.
Right.
That
Right.
plays to what you're saying when you say you think that the big picture of the whole thing, they understand that.
Yeah.
Why is that important? I think that's important because you can continue to appease people who are not aware
Mhm.
of what they may want. We always talk
Yeah.
about what reparations look like,
Yeah.
but no one truly had a devised idea before we heard about, the contract for Black America with Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that everything in it was right or wrong or indifferent, but it's like he actually took the time to put a team together and say, look,
There's points.
here-
He made
yeah.
points in it. Yeah.
So you can run as far as you want to with appeasement because, like you said, a loud enough voice is not being presented. But then if you take what happened in the civil rights movement and apply it to today, we might be light years, leaps and bounds beyond where we are because they kept the same effort, the same
Yeah.
concerted effort.
Mhm.
And that's what gets me when I think about it, because it's like as soon as that bill was passed, it's almost as if people started to say, damn, that's enough. And
Yeah.
that's dating me. So I'm not trying to disrespect what was going on, but it's just like
Right.
it's tailed off. We don't stand together
Yeah.
as a community anymore.
No, we don't.
Like we do
And
not stand together as a community like
and I
they did
think
in the 50s and 60s.
and I think like you just illustrated, once the bill was passed, the fight was all right, we won. But when you think about it, equality is a moving target.
Yeah.
It's not something that can be nailed down because while the quality of life of one is ever evolving, we can't stay stagnant. And we've allowed ourselves to stagnate. We've reached this point, and this is what it used to look like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But this one is ever ascending. At what point are we going to demand that we ascend at a comparable rate? We may never catch up, but we cannot stay stagnant. And we've allowed ourselves to fall for these gestures of appeasement, and they be enough. We got a day off and we got a quarter.
Yeah.
What?
I don't think collectively as a whole, I think this is more of my point. Collectively as a whole, during the civil rights movement, everybody was moving to the same pace. Sure, there were individuals that were successful, maybe had their own business, had a certain position within society, so on and so forth. But as a whole, the Black race was looked at as very much secondary. So everyone within that community, for the most part, Million Man marches and marches on Washington and you name it, was all coming together for the same idea. Like, hey, we need representation in all levels of government, all levels of the education system, representation. We need to be talked about, what our issues are, blah, so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is nowadays, I feel like a lot of us just fall into the capitalism gap with that, or the capitalism mindset. And so maybe you, me, a few others, we ascend, but we're looking very much at our own little world. My family's good. Your family's good. Your generation is going to be good, so on and so forth. That collective whole, we all move as one. Our voice as a people is much louder than my individual voice. That's died off. And I think that's why we get appeased, because we don't really have a core group. We have some leaders, the Sharp of the world and a couple others. And then we have some billionaires now, Jay-Z, Oprah, a couple others. But money has never been, in my idea, the way that you necessarily get things done, because who's funding this? We expect our billionaires, the few that they are, to fund everything? Of course not. But the voice of a poor Black individual that struggles, and they have the ears of everyone else that can, relate, was a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Very powerful thing. And they went through all kind of inequalities and all kind of struggle. And you know what? We're gonna fight to vote. You can water hose me, you can stick dogs on me. I'm gonna be my ass out there to stand in line no matter what you do to try to appease me or oppose me. But but to me, like now, it's like, man, we don't have that same gall.
We don't have the same fire. Right? We don't have the same fire. We don't. And your point about capitalism, it's dead on. I think that we've reached the point where we feel like we have sufficient buying power, that we matter. We can have the things that we want, and we matter. But those are not the basis of measurement when you look at the larger picture, because while sure, we might have, say, I'm just going to wag 10 billionaires. There's a few hundred white billionaires.
Yeah.
Business owners. We don't have many CEOs. We don't have, we are not represented. We're not represented at the level that we should be. And as a community, I'm not going to put, I can't speak for the power structure, because it's been the way that it is forever. It's always going to be this way. But it's where we are as a collective people that that reinforces their ability to throw us a carrot and it be enough.
Yeah.
And that's the disappointing part. We're happy with, I can buy my nice car, I can have my nice house. But where's the economic security for the next generation? We're stuck in right now. And that's where, when I think about these holidays, this is, I think if you ask any white person the significance of Columbus Day, Washington's birthday, President's Day, you ask them the significance of it, and it'll probably mean absolutely nothing. It's a day off for me. And I really believe that most of them look at days off completely different from us as days off. Okay. Most Black people look at a day off. Okay. I don't have to work, but I'm gonna have to make up that lost time another way because I need that money. I don't think most white people looking at Columbus Day and like, day off, but fuck, I'm gonna have to get them 8 hours somewhere.
It's a mindset. It really is, man. And we can still, kind of just parlay it into this whole conversation. But what's going on with, like, the voting bill and things like that? Like, some people don't understand how important situations like that are, because it continues to limit the power that you can give to the low income community. It's the power that you can give to the minorities. So you limit that, right? Like
that vote is a voice.
Yeah, you change the rules on how you do it to make it more difficult. And this is nothing but a new wave of how it was done, once, the country was quote unquote equal, once, slavery ended. But we've seen how hard it was to vote. You can read the history books and, read Jim Crow laws and just everything that came with trying to vote. So why is that important? It's because, like, these are the things that every politician uses as, a focus for their campaign
cry.
And we continue to hope that that's going to be something new. It's going to look different. And then, again, you can't, it's hard to say this. It's hard to complain about things when you get something, because it's almost like, okay, we give you an inch, you want a mile. But in a situation like this, it should have been shit. You should have had a mile a long time ago. Now we're gonna get 10 miles.
Yeah.
So I don't really see this as, you know, complaining. I'm still seeing it as like this is another version of pulling the wool over someone's eyes. Like, fine, you know, write a packet. If you want to do something like this, this sounds crazy, and maybe this is not even how it works. But if you want to do something like this, that should be in some kind of congressional, like, you know, package that you write up and say, hey, look, when I come into office, I plan on giving this day, I plan on, you know, representing, you know, certain figures in the Black culture by giving them, you know, monetary somethings. And on top of that, the real main thing is we're going to make sure that we institute programs that do XYZ for this community.
Yeah.
Now, we always talk about what it looks like to single out the Black community and our percentage and this and that and the other. But we know, because we've talked about this before, that other communities, not necessarily based on race, but they can get singled out and highlighted and get things that they want.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult to give that to the Black community over a substantial amount of time? It's not like, damn, we missed the last 4 years, we didn't get it. We're gonna try to, you know, these are the last 400.
Yeah.
So why is that such a difficult conversation? Why is that such a difficult ask?
Because, and this is just strictly my opinion, since day one, we've always been looked at less than.
Yes. And I think that's hard.
That's why
it's hard for people to say that and not feel like they are saying that. I think that goes to what happened in Florida with their new rule about you don't have to feel bad.
It's reflective of action.
Yeah, and you don't have to feel bad. Like if I had a bigoted grandfather or something like that, and I knew my grandfather was racist and he hated people, all right, I don't wear that hat. You know
right.
Like your grandpa was a crazy, you know, MF. He just cussed out every this and that and the other. I'm like, yeah, well, he grew up in a different time.
Yeah,
you hear that a lot. Yeah, but I feel like we can own something like that. I don't know why. I seem like
we can.
You know, like maybe people who are in a certain mindset from a certain culture, maybe in a certain region of this country, can't own that you come from a lineage of racist people.
Yeah. This country was built on that. And there's no denying that.
But that's what you come from. Why does that got to make you feel like a certain way? Like, so, hey, you still love your grandpa or grandma or great, but shit. They didn't like niggas.
This leads me to this question. Is it fear or guilt? Are we saying fear or are we saying guilt?
Man, it's got to be guilt. I don't think it's fear because, well, I think it was fear until people started getting put on blast, right? Losing jobs, because you know people had a very much freedom of speech. You know that.
Now I'm gonna tie that into something else in a second. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
but I think it's definitely guilt now because you could take a situation like old girl from Louisiana, the judge, right? Yeah. She's in a position that is very much well respected, and in the comfort of her home with her family, they just kicking back, having a good time, saying an N-word.
Throwing an N-word around like it's strawberries.
Facts.
Here, you have an N-word. You have an N-word. N-word, just everywhere.
And to me and you, if she's our public judge and she serves us, mind you, me and you being African American, she would never fix her mouth to speak that way amongst a crowd of us.
Yeah.
But in the comfort of her home, not knowing she's being recorded or however it came out, I don't know what was going on. She was just speaking her truth.
Yeah,
that's the guilt. The guilt is you can't help but think that all around us, right? There's people who say certain things, and they're of all colors. It's just what position do you hold? You know, like I can influence you have. If I call somebody racist that I work with, like you ain't nobody. Who gives a shit? But if I call the president of the United States racist, like that's way different, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I think
no doubt.
Like, they know what they do. They know who they are. They're expressing who they are as a person. It doesn't always make you like the big R word, but you might definitely have tendencies. You might
have some biases that you did not think that you had. You know?
Yeah, racism is not always like I hate black people, like old country, no, but it could be very much like you thought it was cool to say that. You think it's cool to, quote unquote, mock us in certain ways, blackface and do all these things, mimic our culture. You think that's cool? Or you just don't think that nobody who doesn't know this side of you, it doesn't matter. See?
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. Tie your situation.
So let's go back to canceling folks or calling them out for their biases and their racist tendencies. Let's go back to that time when it was really fervent. Let's go back to when, BLM had protests regularly.
Yeah.
What happened? Out of nowhere, dude, it seemed like a 10-minute conversation. Juneteenth was a fucking holiday.
Yeah.
There was no lead up. It was like, Juneteenth's tomorrow. Fuck it, make it a holiday. It'll shut them up. Yeah. Juneteenth's a holiday. And we shut the fuck up.
Yep. And then when you seen action still happening, they became issues. Every time someone used, let's call it public space, a road, a wall, or whatever they want to make a memorial or say be a Black Lives Matter, like in DC, spray painted over and all this. And it was this whole fiasco. But again, it goes to what appeasement looks like. Well, federally, we're recognizing you. It doesn't mean that today you can go out and do this because it's the same thing that you've seen with like the statues, right? Nobody wanted to bring these Confederate statues down, but we're like, why are you glorifying something that actually represents something much worse? Oh, well, but that was a different time, and these are still important individuals. Well, are they? Like, how does that work? Like,
these were traitors.
Yeah,
these are traitors.
Flag. I mean, the flag's the same thing. Like, the stars and the bars. Like, we don't understand what that means. We do understand what that means. However, but we still want to fly it. What?
Yeah. we're gonna filter it.
I don't know.
We're gonna filter.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
we're gonna those subsequent verses. They don't matter.
I mean, it's just it's exclusivity. We're trying to be more exclusive in all ways, except for the ways that define a truth. See, what I'm getting at is like if you take certain communities, like we talked about, they are establishing who they are. LGBTQ, all that. They're establishing who they are. So this is still relatively a new, open concept. Things are changing very rapidly within this, but to establish what the Black community is saying something ridiculous. We know what we are, but we also know where we came from, and that's never really been acknowledged. So why do we have to learn certain things as only like a half truth or a falsehood altogether when it comes to what this country's history is, but we can't tell what the truth of this country history truly is, other than a short chapter or a small paragraph. We can't get graphic and talk about the atrocities because that makes you feel bad. But you can glorify these same people in a different manner.
That committed the atrocities.
How great they were.
Yeah, the catalyst for these atrocities. Yes.
What they did is conquering new lands and expanding the country. But what did they do to us? What did they do?
Yeah.
How did they look at and view?
No one wants to acknowledge the cost.
We weren't even Americans. Go to that.
Yeah.
We weren't even Americans pre-Civil War.
Yeah.
We're property.
Yes.
So we've only been Americans, right, for not even 150 plus years, 160. Americans now.
And that's why it's so hard.
Money Mitch said what he said.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to get the acknowledgement and to see inroads in progress for us.
Facts.
This discussion was important so that we can look a little bit deeper at what these gestures mean. That's the main part of this conversation. It's not about pointing any finger at any one particular person or any one particular group. It's what we take from these gestures. What do you see when you look at? Are you just seeing Juneteenth on the surface as a holiday? Are you seeing the quarter it's just a quarter. What are you looking at the intent behind it? That's the question that we all have to ask ourselves.
And that is our thought-provoking conversation for this evening. Appeasement of the Black community. All right, man. So moving into my final note. This one be short and to the point. And it's always Florida. I don't know. It's always some shit in Florida, man. But
so we have the Bugs Bunny.
Facts. It's a Florida cop that's being crazily aggressive in her arrest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you see down there, attempting to police themselves comes at a cost. So the colleague of, let's call him the lead, I don't know, officer.
He's a sergeant. He was the on-scene commander. Yeah. He's in charge.
She basically approaches him in a manner of, yo, I think that's a bit much. That seems excessive. Maybe we should pull back a little bit. I think we have him subdued. I don't know. You can just go off the video and see kind of how she's like trying to intervene. Well, I guess when you get in a commander and officer's face, or you try to tell them how to do their job better than what they're doing it, that comes at a cost, because he didn't discipline her with verbal thrashings, which would be heinous as well. Mm-hmm. He put his hands on her.
Yeah.
He physically turned around, grabbed her by the neck in a very aggressive manner, pushing her back. And you can only kind of, mouth what he's saying because you can't see. But he's basically telling her, like, stay in your fucking place.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to intervene with what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's shocking as hell. And I hope that there's follow-up that comes after this, because I want to know, like, hopefully, like, there's no kidding statements that were given by her, for one, maybe other witnesses, and I definitely want to hear what fucking goddamn the cop has to say, because this is exactly what we're talking about. And I think this is what limits cops doing the right things, because they fear, that thin blue line. Like, did you go against us? That mean right now you're almost as bad as somebody who's not taking the handouts that we're getting off the drug bus, right? Mm-hmm. You want to be, as I heard somebody say before, Serpico, right? You ought to be Al Pacino and be the good cop in a sea of bad ones, but not going that dark and just looking at her trying to intervene and step in when he was clearly
out of bounds.
Looking at all this happen in police brutality and all these other situations that got escalated, she's trying to stop that.
Yeah.
And he treats her like whatever, puts his hands on her, chokes her, basically tells her stay in her fucking place. That was eye-opening, to say the least. So I hope that there's a follow-up. But my final note is basically just saying, this is where it takes some strength, some resilience to not see this as a cop, right? And say, this is why I won't do my job. Or this is the type of, backlash that we usually hear or see, or in this case, even feel, that maybe you and me and whoever else saying, there's no good cops out there. This is what y'all don't see, and this is what limits us, Now, I'm not giving them a pass. I still feel like, you have to be a good human regardless of the situation.
Right.
But these situations right here, the right thing needs to happen to that officer. Right. Meaning, like, his ass needs to get fired. If you can get fired, Pokemon, you damn sure can get fired for, putting your hand on another officer.
Assault.
Because they're trying to correct you from potentially making a grave mistake. And now we're the next, situation that's public news, or, highlighted as being shitty cops because you want to be a dickhead.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my final note tonight, man. So I'm gonna just close on that. How you want to get out of here, P?
Hey, everybody, thank you again for tuning in with us. Madeline, thank you. And thank you for what you do. All the teachers that, Marcus's wife, and any teacher that's out there that gets wind of this episode, this one is dedicated to you. Thank you for what you do and taking care of our kids.
All right. Well, that's been CO and the Doctor. Till our next episode, y'all take care of yourself. Peace.